All right, let's dive into a really fascinating but often overlooked chapter in ancient Judean history. We're going to be looking at the reign of Queen Salome Alexandra, all through the eyes of the historian Flavius Josephus. It's a wild ride.
This one sentence from Josephus, it just cuts right to the heart of the whole story. It perfectly captures this massive power struggle that defined her entire 9-year reign. It was a dynamic that would literally shape the future of the kingdom. So you have to ask, how on earth did things get to this point?
Well, our story actually begins with a dying king, Alexander's husband, and his very last act was this huge calculated gamble, a move designed to save his kingdom and really his family's legacy.
You see, King Alexander had been a pretty brutal ruler, and he knew it. The people could not stand him. So his final move was, you could say, a stroke of political genius. He completely bypassed his own sons and handed the crown to his wife, Alexandra. Now, why would he do that? Because he was betting the people would accept her. She had always pushed back against his harsh methods, and because of that, she'd earned the people's trust.
Now let's look at the two sons he skipped over. First, there's the elder son, Hyrcanus. Alexandra made him the high priest. Josephus describes him as having an inactive temper. Basically, he wasn't going to rock the boat. Then you've got the younger son, Aristobulus. Total opposite. He had a warmth of temper, he was ambitious, full of energy, and he was deliberately kept out of the public eye. This massive difference between the two brothers, well, it's pretty much setting the stage for all the conflict that's about to come.
So once she's on the throne, the queen, who was deeply religious, immediately makes a very powerful alliance. And this one decision would swing the door wide open for a certain group to rise up and eventually grab all the real power.
And that group? The Pharisees. Josephus basically defines them as the sect known for being super religious and for their expert take on the law. Since Queen Alexandra herself was so devout, it kind of makes sense she'd turn to them for advice.
But, their role grew way beyond just being advisors. Josephus says that because she was so pious, Alexandra listened to them a lot. They artfully insinuated themselves into her good graces, and bit by bit, they became the ones actually running the country.
So what did this power actually look like? Well, the Pharisees were wielding the true authority. I mean, they could banish whoever they wanted, they could throw people in prison or let them out as they saw fit. They were pretty much enjoying all the perks of being royalty, while Queen Alexandra was stuck with all the bills and the headaches of the kingdom.
And with this kind of newfound authority, the Pharisees weren't just content to govern. Nope, they started using their power behind the throne to settle some old scores. Yeah, their first order of business was pure payback. They went right after the people who had advised the old king in his cruel acts against their sect. A key guy named Diogenes was executed, along with others. This wasn't just a change in politics, folks. This was a purge.
Well, when you start an aggressive campaign like that, you are definitely going to make some powerful enemies. And that opposition movement found its leader in let's just say, a very predictable place, inside the queen's own family.
Remember Aristobulus, the ambitious son with the warmth of temper? You got it. All the important men who were in the Pharisees' crosshairs, they flocked to him for protection. And Aristobulus, seeing a golden political opportunity, became their champion. He even got his mom to spare their lives, convincing her to just banish them from the city instead.
So now you've got this deep, dangerous split in the kingdom. You have the Pharisees on one side and Aristobulus with the old guard on the other. It was a total powder keg just waiting for a spark. And that spark came when the queen's health started to fail.
And a guy like Aristobulus was not about to let an opportunity like this just pass him by. He saw this moment of weakness, with his mother on her deathbed, and knew it was the perfect time to make his move.
And his move was, wow. It was fast, it was decisive, and it was brilliantly executed. First, he used his network of friends to take control of all the nation's fortresses. Then, he took the money he found inside them and hired a whole army of mercenaries. So, with the military and the money locked down, he just went ahead and declared himself king. Simple as that.
So what was his older brother, the inactive Hyrcanus, doing all this time? While Aristobulus was busy seizing a kingdom, Hyrcanus was complaining to their dying mother. But it was way too late. Queen Alexandra died before she could do anything about it. And just like that, Aristobulus's victory was sealed, and his brother's claim to the throne was worth nothing.
And so, after 9 years, the reign of Queen Salome Alexandra came to an end. A reign that started with a clever political play by her husband and was finished by an even bolder one from her own son.
Which brings us to the big final question, right? With the religious queen gone and this man of action now on the throne, a man who is a direct enemy of the Pharisees, what's going to happen to all that power they'd won? The fight for control of Judea was so far from over. In fact, it was just getting started on its next and probably even more explosive chapter.